Captain Elias Mercer tightened his grip on the control console of the Vanguard, the cargo ship that had been his home for the last 7 years. The vast void outside the viewport stretched endlessly, a silent canvas of distant stars, punctuated only by jagged asteroids drifting through the belt ahead. Unlike the automated navigation systems that most interstellar freighters relied upon, Elias trusted his instincts, an intuition honed from countless near misses with rogue pirates and uncharted gravitational anomalies. His fingers danced across the controls, adjusting thrusters with precise microbursts, steering the ship through a particularly dense cluster. "This is why humans never go obsolete," he muttered under his breath, a wry grin tugging at the corners of his lips. His mind worked faster than any algorithm, anticipating collisions before sensors could even detect them. The Vanguard shuddered as a small rock scraped the hull. Elias tapped the console and activated a stabilizer burst, sending the debris harmlessly spinning into the void. A sigh of relief escaped him. Survival, he knew, was as much about quick thinking as it was about luck. The mission had been simple: deliver emergency supplies to Colony Theta 9, a mining outpost on the edge of explored space. Reports from the colony had mentioned unusual readings in a nearby derelict station, but no one paid them much mind. Elias, however, had a curiosity that was as relentless as it was dangerous. He set a course for the station, engines humming in anticipation. The station was silent when he docked, its outer hull scarred by impacts and corrosion. Inside, the darkness was suffocating, broken only by flickering emergency lights. He moved cautiously, blaster in hand, scanning for life or hostile presence. That's when he saw them, 3 figures huddled in a corner, small and fragile, with luminous eyes that seemed to glow with intelligence far beyond their apparent age. The first instinct was caution, the second curiosity. Elias approached slowly, speaking in the universal trade dialect. "Hey there. You alone?" The children exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of fear and wonder. None answered, yet their eyes followed him with unnerving precision. He knelt down and retrieved some protein packs from his satchel, offering them gently. One by one, they took the food, hesitation giving way to ravenous consumption. Elias watched them carefully, noting the subtle ways they interacted. The way one child tilted his head to mimic a gesture, another carefully divided a portion among the others. They were intelligent, resourceful, and completely unguarded. "You've got guts showing up here alone," Elias murmured, more to himself than to them. He wondered who or what these children were. Alien, yes, but not hostile. At least, not yet. A sudden noise echoed from deeper within the station, making his hair stand on end. His blaster was ready, but when he followed the sound, it led only to more empty corridors. Yet something felt off, residual energy in the air, faint pulses of power that no human could generate. He paused, sensing that these children were more than they appeared. Hours passed as Elias tried to communicate, simple gestures and drawings the only bridge between species. He learned that one of the children, a boy with silver streaks in his dark hair, seemed especially perceptive. He would mirror Elias' movements, sometimes preempting them. Another, smaller and quieter, held the other 2 together with an almost instinctual authority. The youngest, the most timid, displayed bursts of energy that flickered along his skin when startled. Elias noted each occurrence, a mix of awe and concern settling in his chest. As night fell, he made a decision. The colony was too far, the authorities too bureaucratic to act quickly. He would bring the children aboard the Vanguard. It was dangerous. Unknown beings could trigger political incidents or worse, but leaving them behind felt like abandonment, and that was a concept Elias could not tolerate. He returned to the ship, children in tow, carefully securing them in a safe compartment. As the engines roared to life, Elias stared out at the dark expanse ahead. Something about the station's energy signature lingered in his mind, a warning unspoken. He didn't know it yet, but the children were not ordinary. They carried with them connections to forces far beyond his understanding. Forces that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy itself. "All right, boys," he said quietly, addressing them for the first time by name, albeit his own improvised choices. Kale, Rin, and Sora. Welcome aboard. Let's see what trouble we can survive together. The stars outside shimmered like distant promises, and for the first time in months, Elias felt the thrill of uncertainty, the kind that human ingenuity thrived on. He had no idea that the mother of these children, a figure of unimaginable power, was already aware of their absence. And that awareness would soon change everything. The Vanguard lifted off from the derelict station, engines cutting a path through the asteroid belt with human precision. Elias glanced back at the fading silhouette of the station, then forward into the unknown. Adventure, danger, and perhaps a cosmic reckoning awaited. But for now, he had the children, and that was enough. For humans, resourcefulness was the ultimate weapon, and Elias intended to prove it. The hum of the Vanguard's engines filled the cabin as Captain Elias Mercer navigated through uncharted sectors, the alien children huddled in the reinforced compartment he had improvised. Kale, the eldest, peered through the small viewport with wide, luminous eyes, while Rin and Sora mimicked his movements, curiosity mixing with cautious apprehension. Elias watched them silently, noting the subtle ways they interacted with their surroundings. Their intelligence was undeniable, their behavior eerily coordinated. His calm was abruptly broken by a sharp alarm. The ship's sensors, usually reliable for asteroids and rogue comets, were picking up multiple fast-moving objects converging from the rear. Black silhouettes against the stars, ships unlike any he had seen before. Sleek, angular, and exuding an aura of menace, they moved with precision that rivaled human ingenuity, yet lacked the hesitation that often betrayed instinctive calculation. Elias' pulse quickened, but he forced a steady hand. "They've found us," he muttered, eyes scanning the instruments. The fleet was closing fast, weapons energy readings spiking intermittently. Whoever these pursuers were, they didn't hesitate, didn't negotiate. They were here for the children. Elias activated evasive protocols, engaging the ship's thrusters in a complex dance through the nearby asteroid field. His fingers flew over the console, manually overriding automated navigation systems, exploiting the gaps in the pursuing fleet's calculations. One by one, the black ships adjusted, shadowing him perfectly. But they were fast, precise, and unrelenting. "You've got guts, human," a distorted voice boomed over the comms. Elias tensed. "Do not attempt escape. Return the children, or we will obliterate this vessel." He clenched his jaw, scanning the compartment. Kale had crouched, gripping the railing, his silver-streaked hair catching the faint starlight. Rin, the middle child, placed a protective hand on the youngest, Sora, whose energy pulses flickered nervously across his skin. Elias understood instantly. These children were not merely vulnerable, they were powerful, and their pursuers knew it. "Not happening," Elias muttered, engaging the shields and plotting a risky maneuver. He had no choice but to rely on human improvisation, on instincts honed by years of surviving impossible odds. He guided the Vanguard into a narrow pass, the asteroids now almost close enough to scrape the hull. The black ships hesitated, their size and unfamiliar tech preventing them from following blindly. Elias seized the advantage, weaving through the debris like a thread through a needle. As they escaped immediate danger, Elias allowed himself a brief glance at the children. Kale's gaze met his, and in that silent moment, a bond was cemented, trust built on the shared understanding that human ingenuity was, in this instance, their greatest shield. Once in open space, he ran scans on the children's energy signatures. The youngest, Sora, had fluctuating pulses of intense energy, concentrated enough to suggest latent abilities that could rival small warships. Rin's coordination of the group was almost strategic, guiding Kale and Sora in ways Elias could only interpret as instinctual leadership. Even in this moment of peril, their potential was undeniable. Hours passed with tense maneuvering. Elias shared small meals, speaking softly to them, teaching simple cues for hiding, signaling, and safety. "You have to trust me," he said, voice firm but gentle. "We stick together, we survive." He realized that in this strange alliance, humanity's greatest tools were empathy, intuition, and moral courage, qualities these alien beings seemed to sense instinctively. During a brief respite, Elias attempted to communicate further. He drew simple symbols on a digital pad, hoping to convey direction, danger, and the concept of trust. Kale's eyes widened as he traced the lines with his fingers, Rin copying with perfect precision, Sora's energy flickering as though reacting to understanding. Elias noted the flashes. These were not random, they were signals, perhaps a form of nonverbal communication beyond human comprehension. Suddenly, one of the pursuing ships broke formation, firing a high-energy pulse. Elias dove to avoid impact, deploying decoy drones he had packed for emergencies. The pulse detonated harmlessly against one, and the resulting debris caused a ripple effect that disrupted the formation temporarily. He had bought himself time, but he knew it wouldn't last long. Whoever these pursuers were, they would adapt. Elias finally allowed himself a small smile, recalling the countless scenarios he had survived through improvisation and sheer human audacity. The children mirrored his relief, though their eyes never left the shadows of space, scanning, learning, and perhaps anticipating danger in ways Elias could not. He understood one thing clearly. Human ingenuity alone might keep them alive, but only if combined with the children's latent potential. As the stars stretched into streaks around them, Elias contemplated the reality of their situation. These children were more than passengers. They were catalysts, anchors to forces he could barely imagine. And he, a human among the vast cold of space, had been entrusted with them, not by design, but by circumstance. A sudden, subtle vibration ran through the ship, a faint pulse in the energy field surrounding the children. Elias froze. The pulse was unintentional, yet undeniable, as if the children themselves had emitted a signal. Somewhere far beyond, someone or something had felt it. Elias exhaled slowly, realizing the magnitude of what he had stumbled into. He had protected them from immediate danger, yet the galaxy itself was watching now. Whoever their mother was, Elias knew she would not be forgiving of strangers who took liberties with her offspring. And if his instincts were correct, the approaching storm would not be deterred by threats or intimidation. He crouched beside Kale, placing a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. "We're not out of this yet," he said. "But humans can do incredible things when they have to." Kale nodded solemnly, a spark of understanding reflected in his luminous eyes. The vanguard surged forward, leaving behind the debris-littered corridor of pursuit. Yet somewhere deep in the void, the shadow of their mother, an entity of immeasurable power, was beginning to stir, drawn by the pulse, the disturbance, and the audacity of one human who dared to feed and protect her children. Elias leaned back in his seat, gaze fixed on the distant stars. The game had begun. And for the first time, he understood that the children were not merely innocent passengers. They were the key to events that could change the galaxy. For humans, he thought, opportunity often arrived disguised as danger. And he intended to seize it. The vanguard glided silently through the outer rim of the Lyria Expanse, a region notorious for energy anomalies and erratic gravitational shifts. Elias Mercer sat tensely in the pilot seat, eyes fixed on the holographic displays. Kale, Rin, and Sora were unusually quiet, huddled together, their luminous eyes reflecting the dim cabin lights. The earlier skirmish had left a lingering tension, and Elias knew instinctively that the calm would not last. Then it came, the first unmistakable sign. The stars ahead shimmered unnaturally, stretching into ribbons of light, bending around a colossal figure that seemed to float between dimensions. A presence, immense and radiating authority, filled the viewport. Elias instinctively leaned forward, gripping the console as if the act could anchor him against the sheer magnitude of what he was witnessing. "Impossible," he muttered. The being, an alien female, regal and terrifying, hovered with a composure that belied her devastating power. Energy rippled from her form in waves, distorting space itself. This was no ordinary entity. This was Aristhra, the mother of the children, whispered across sectors as a force capable of leveling fleets with a mere gesture. The comms crackled with her voice, calm yet omnipotent. "Captain Elias Mercer," she intoned, each syllable reverberating like a pulse through the ship. "You have taken my children." There was no accusation, no anger, only certainty. Elias felt a cold knot of awe and fear tighten in his chest. This was the moment when human courage was measured against the immeasurable. He exhaled slowly. I didn't know they were yours," he said, voice steady despite the adrenaline thrumming in his veins. "I found them abandoned. I was only trying to keep them safe." Her gaze, though not fixed on him in a human sense, pierced through him like a probe. Abandoned? They were never alone. They were under observation, training, testing. I allowed you to discover them, to see if humanity possessed qualities worthy of guardianship. Elias' mind raced, trying to comprehend the magnitude. The children, he realized, had not been helpless. They were instruments of her judgment, their fate entwined with his. Cale stepped forward, or at least as forward as he could within the confines of the compartment, and their luminous eyes flickered with recognition, almost as if acknowledging their mother's presence. Elias noticed subtle changes in the energy surrounding the children, flickers, pulses, a readiness to respond. He had underestimated their potential. "The fleet pursuing you," Aristra continued, her voice like both a command and a ripple through space, "was not for retrieval alone. They were a test for you and for them. You have survived through ingenuity, courage, and compassion, qualities rare among humans." Elias' jaw tightened. HFY, he thought grimly, had once again proven its worth, not through technology, but through heart and mind. Elias studied her carefully. Even through the impossible energy radiating from her, he sought weaknesses, openings, anything to assert control in a situation where none seemed to exist. He realized quickly that physical confrontation was irrelevant. This was a trial of intellect, ethics, and instinct. "You've seen enough to understand," Aristra said, shifting slightly, her form rippling like liquid light. "Your actions have preserved my children, yet placed you directly in the crossfire of those who would exploit them. You are now bound to their safety. Your species' resilience will be tested beyond what you have faced." Elias nodded, slowly, the weight of responsibility settling on him like a tangible mass. He looked at Cale, whose small hand reached instinctively for his. Rin and Sora mirrored the gesture. The children's reliance on him was no longer simple guardianship, it was trust in the ingenuity and morality of a single human being. And Elias realized, with a mixture of pride and fear, that humans had always thrived in moments that demanded far more than their apparent strength could offer. Then, a new tremor rippled through the ship. Elias' sensors flared. Unseen forces were adjusting, recalibrating, responding to Aristra's presence. He had no idea if it was hostile or merely observational, but instinct demanded caution. He activated shields and ran diagnostic scans. The children, strangely, remained calm, as if sensing the non-threatening nature of the phenomenon, or perhaps readying themselves for what might come. Aristra's voice returned, softer this time, almost intimate. "Captain Mercer, understand this. The galaxy contains forces far beyond your comprehension. My enemies covet my children for the chaos they could unleash. You have shown the ability to act with clarity, resourcefulness, and moral certainty, qualities even I respect. You may continue your role as their protector, but know this. Your choices from this moment forward will shape outcomes that extend far beyond this system." Elias exhaled, a mixture of relief and renewed determination. For a fleeting moment, the sheer scale of her power threatened to crush him mentally, yet the spark of human tenacity, the same spark that had guided him through countless perils, ignited within him. He understood that this was not merely survival, this was a test of human ingenuity and moral resilience. "Understood," he said, voice firm, resonating with conviction. "I'll keep them safe. No one will take them, not without me standing in the way." Aristra's form began to recede, the distortion of space around her dissolving as she withdrew. I will observe, she said. Do not fail. They are more than children, they are catalysts. And you, Captain Mercer, are now part of a larger equation. As the Vanguard's engines hummed back to full power, Elias sank into a seat, staring at the three children. The stars outside no longer seemed like distant specks. They were possibilities, challenges, and threats waiting to be navigated. For the first time, Elias realized the scale of what he had stepped into, a galactic web of power, responsibility, and intrigue, where human qualities, instinct, courage, and empathy would be tested against forces that dwarfed his imagination. Cale reached for his hand, small fingers curling around his thumb. Elias squeezed back, a silent promise. In that moment, he understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had shifted, and he, a human, was now a pivotal player in a drama that could reshape entire worlds. The children were safe for now. But beyond the stars, somewhere in the void, Aristhra's presence lingered, observing, testing, waiting. And Elias knew that the real challenge, the test of humanity, was only just beginning. The Vanguard cut through the Lyria expanse with a steady hum, its course plotted toward the outer colonies. Elias Mercer, hands resting lightly on the controls, allowed himself a brief moment to assess the situation. Cale, Rin, and Sora had grown more confident, their energy pulses subtly harmonizing with the ship's systems, as if the children themselves had begun adapting to human technology. Elias observed them closely. Their abilities were growing, but so was the weight of responsibility pressing on him. This isn't just about keeping them alive anymore, he muttered. It's about preparing them and myself. The comms crackled suddenly, a familiar voice resonating through the cabin. It was Aristhra. Captain Mercer, your actions have proven humanity's worthiness, yet the galaxy is not forgiving of negligence. My adversaries are mobilizing. You must be ready. Elias leaned back, the enormity of the situation pressing in. Understood, he replied. We'll be ready. The children watched, sensing the gravity of the moment. Cale stepped closer, silver-streaked hair shimmering faintly in the dim light. We are ready too, he said, in a tone that carried both confidence and a quiet challenge. Elias smiled faintly, impressed. Even without language fully bridging the gap, the children communicated volumes. He began preparing the Vanguard for potential conflict, running diagnostics on shields, thrusters, and weaponry. Though human tech was inferior to what their pursuers wielded, Elias relied on ingenuity rather than raw power. Decoys, evasive maneuvers, and unpredictability. These were his tools, the unique strengths of a species underestimated across the stars. Hours later, sensors picked up the approaching fleet, dark, angular ships that moved like coordinated shadows. Elias engaged evasive maneuvers, weaving the Vanguard through asteroid clusters with precision born of instinct. The children reacted instinctively, energy pulses flaring subtly to shield or redirect minor debris. He realized that their powers, combined with human improvisation, made them a formidable force. Remember, Elias said, glancing at them. Predict their moves, use the environment, and trust your instincts. That's how humans survive. Cale's eyes reflected understanding, Rin's posture radiated readiness, and Sora's energy pulses flickered like a heartbeat syncing with Elias' own. The Black Fleet advanced, and the first wave of attacks began. Energy pulses streaked toward the Vanguard, but Elias anticipated each strike, countering with clever maneuvers and deploying decoy drones at critical moments. The children's abilities amplified his tactics. Pulses from Sora disrupted targeting arrays, while Cale and Rin subtly manipulated gravity fields around the ship, tilting the battlefield in their favor. Elias marveled at the synergy, an unspoken partnership forming between human and alien. This was the essence of the HFY principle: humans, underestimated and underpowered, rising above through ingenuity, morality, and collaboration. The fleet faltered, miscalculating the combined forces at play. Once the immediate threat subsided, Elias took a moment to speak quietly with the children. You've got potential, he said. But potential is nothing without control and discipline. Together, We can handle whatever comes next. Kale's hand rested on his arm. Rin mirrored the gesture, and Sora's pulses softened. A moment of trust, affirmation, and quiet reassurance. Later, in the calm after the skirmish, Aristhra appeared again, her form shimmering with the omnipotence that had first overwhelmed Elias. "You have exceeded my expectations, Captain," she said. "Humanity is capable of more than I anticipated. You and my children have proven that cooperation, courage, and ingenuity can defy even the most advanced threats." Elias exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride. "Thank you," he said. "But we're not done yet. There's always more to do." Aristhra nodded, her energy pulsing like distant stars. "Indeed. The galaxy remains perilous. But you, Elias Mercer, are now part of a larger design. My children's safety is intertwined with your species' evolution. Your decisions will echo beyond this system." The children gathered around him, their luminous eyes reflecting a new understanding, a trust in the human who had protected them against impossible odds. Elias felt a swell of purpose unlike anything he had experienced in his long years among the stars. He realized that humanity's value was not in technology or power, but in adaptability, morality, and the courage to act when all odds seemed insurmountable. As the Vanguard resumed its course, the stars stretched into long trails outside the viewport, each one a potential challenge, a potential ally, or a potential threat. Elias glanced at the children, then back at the stars. "We've made it this far," he said quietly. "And we're just getting started." The galaxy was vast, filled with forces beyond comprehension, and yet for the first time, Elias felt the full weight of human potential. He had no illusions about the dangers that lay ahead, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty: humans, when tested, could rise above even the most formidable adversaries. And with Kale, Rin, and Sora by his side, he was ready to face whatever the cosmos could throw at them. Somewhere, in the far reaches of space, Aristhra observed, a silent guardian and judge, recognizing the subtle brilliance of a single human who dared to defy fate and protect what was precious. The story was far from over, but for now, Elias had secured a fragile victory, a victory born of ingenuity, courage, and the unwavering human spirit. The Vanguard surged forward, leaving behind the remnants of pursuit and entering a galaxy teeming with possibility. Elias' eyes gleamed with determination, and the children, glowing softly, mirrored his resolve. Together, they were not merely survivors. They were a testament to what humanity could achieve when it refused to yield to fear. And as the stars stretched on endlessly before them, Elias knew the next chapter awaited. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but humans, remarkably, audaciously, were ready.